Take $1 billion mega franchise based on decades of beloved comic books. Add millions of very online fans who love to come up with wild theories. It's infinite monkeys with infinite typewriters. Some of those theories were bound to come true, but equally, a bunch of them were bound to be nonsense, and we really should have known.
Very, very interesting theory.
Here are 10 of the craziest MCU theories we all believe, for some reason. The introduction of the Infinity Stones into the Marvel Cinematic Universe implied that there was some serious cosmic power out there waiting to be tapped. So, it was natural that fans would speculate about what the individual stones might be able to do. And sure, on paper, using the Reality Stone as an in-universe reason for recasting roles sort of makes sense. But also, they'd already recast Terrence Howard with Don Cheadle. They'd already recast Ed Norton with Mark Ruffalo. It's just a thing that happens in movies sometimes. Why overcomplicate it? Years before the Secret Invasion show was announced, Captain Marvel brought the Skrulls into MCU continuity, and the internet immediately went up in flames. That means anybody could be a Skrull. Anybody. One of the wildest candidates? Thor. Fans theorized that the God of Thunder had been replaced with a Skrull imposter between his second and third movies. The logic being that between the Dark World and Ragnarok, he became a lot goofier.
I can see your face.
Not when I do this, you can't.
And yeah, okay. The Odinsons certainly became more of a comedy character. But if you were an alien villain trying to pass as an Avenger, surely you'd try to avoid such a dramatic shift in personality. Let's just put this one down to the Taika Waititi factor. This is an odd one because it sort of works, but also immediately doesn't. Fans theorize that Thanos, who was obsessed with collecting the Infinity Stones, would never have trusted a loose cannon like Loki with the real Mind Stone. Ergo, the Mind Stone Loki wielded in his scepter was a fake. Makes a certain kind of sense. But also, we clearly see the Mind Stone working in the first Avengers movie. Loki takes over multiple characters. He even manipulates the Avengers into turning against each other. You don't do that without serious juice. So, the theory was basically dead on arrival. If there's one thing Marvel fans love to do, it's theorize that Mephisto is coming, or that a character is secretly actually Mephisto, or that when Mephisto isn't on screen, all the other characters should be asking, "Where's Mephisto?" And, self-evidently, not a single It's Mephisto theory has held any water so far. We thought he'd appear in WandaVision. Didn't happen. Then, it was She-Hulk. Didn't happen. Knowing our track record, by the time he does appear, none of us will see it coming. We can be forgiven for this one, because a key Marvel figure egged us on. In Captain America: The Winter Soldier, a big yellow truck appears during certain action scenes, clearly assisting Nick Fury. We never see the driver, but no less an authority than Joe Russo hinted that it was an important character with a special set of skills. Liam Neeson? Or, more likely, the Punisher? We all thought the latter, but it's been nearly a decade now with no further evidence. So, we can only conclude it was just a big tease. Shame on you, Joe Russo. We've known for a while now that the X-Men will eventually be introduced into MCU continuity. It's inevitable, but that just raises the thorny problem of how. After all, in the comics, mutants have always been there. Harder to make that realistic in a pre-established movie universe with centuries of history. So when Professor X appeared in the latest Doctor Strange movie, we naturally assumed that mutants would eventually appear from a parallel dimension. A little confusing, maybe, but it made a certain sort of sense, except no. Ms. Marvel confirmed that there are mutants in the MCU. There goes that theory. It's wild to think that so many of us believed Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, the leader of the Fantastic Four, would appear for the first time in WandaVision. And all we had to go on was a reference to an aerospace engineer. Sure, he would be a sensible person to recruit if an event like Westview happened, but come on. Were Marvel really going to introduce such an important character in a Disney Plus show? The engineer turned out to be Major Goodner, and that's really what we deserved for getting so carried away with our theory. Black Widow's death in Avengers Endgame was a major moment, an emotional goodbye for a long-serving Avenger, and also key to the plot. So, naturally, when the Black Widow solo movie was announced, a bunch of us assumed they were going to bring her back to life. We can be forgiven. Marvel does have forms for cheating death, but also, come on. It was always going to be a prequel, wasn't it? Or a midquel, or however you categorize Black Widow. Fans certainly had grounds for expecting Tony Stark to be a member of powerful secret society, the Illuminati. He's a member in the comics, after all. But why we kept expecting it in the MCU is another question. After all, there were no hints about its existence, and other prominent members were very much absent. And then he pretty convincingly died, which should really have been the nail in the coffin. Until Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, of course, when he also wasn't a member. So that just kinda fizzled out, huh? When we started seeing proper high-quality images of Thanos, we couldn't help but notice some pretty distinctive scars on his face. 3 long scars, to be exact. What could have caused them? Long claws, probably. And which Marvel character has long claws? A character who, let me check my notes, hadn't been in the MCU or even been mentioned? A character who was a mutant? A group of beings that also hadn't appeared in the MCU or even been mentioned? Of course we thought it was Wolverine. Of course we did. We should just stop with the theories, really. Okay, having just said let's stop with the theories, I have a theory. A theory that's gonna blow this whole thing wide open. Remember Ang Lee's 2003 Hulk movie? What if the entire modern MCU, from the 2008 Iron Man onward, is just a dissociative hallucination taking place in Eric Bana's head while he fights his disembodied electrical father above the clouds? You can't prove it's not,